Hello, I'm live. I was just live, by the way, but I'm live again, trying to get the guest in. Champions adjust. Champions adjust. I am back. Grateful day. Welcome to the 24th episode of the Faith Forward Fearlessly podcast with your host, Jenée Hudson, the Uplifter. That's me. Thank you so much for those of you who are coming back on. I appreciate you. I empower current, former, and transitioning professionals and entrepreneurs navigating the complex balances of life, commitments, and growth, guiding them to conquer overwhelm with unwavering integrity, authenticity, and perseverance, all anchored in faith. Now, for my faith-focused t-shirt, and in case you didn't get to see it the first time, you're going to get to see it again today. You know I always have a t-shirt on Friday. So today, I'm going to stand up to show this shirt. It says kindness, equality, inclusion, love, diversity. Isn't it cute? So, which for me means doing the right thing, no matter what or who you are, no matter how successful you are. No one should be belittled by another person. As unfortunately, I was once subject to a toxic environment. And although I held a high position in human resources, these things of what should have been like harmony was unfortunately not. And instead, I was alone, forced to fend for myself and for most others by way of my own positive morals. So I too have been there. If you've been there and you can relate, put it in the chat, relate. Therefore, today's episode is called Empowered by Faith, the important role of diversity, equity, and inclusion, also known as DEI, in business and entrepreneurship. So today we're diving deep into a topic that is not only close to my heart, but also essential for the future of business and entrepreneurship. Today, you guys, I am honored to introduce our esteemed guest, Dr. Lee E. Meadows. Dr. Meadows is an adjacent professor of management at Walsh College, okay? That's huge. And a seasoned consultant with over 30 years of experience in the field of human resources. His impressive career spans roles of Michigan State University, General Motors, the Kellogg Foundation, and many other notable organizations, okay? Dr. Meadows, his extensive consulting portfolio includes collaborations with the City of Detroit, Detroit Medical Center, Flagstar Bank. These are some huge companies, you guys. And even the international giants like Bosch, okay? He is not just a practitioner, but he's also a thought leader, having presented at numerous conferences, including those for the Michigan Independent Colleges and Universities and the African American Association of College Registrars and Admission Officers. You guys, he's huge, right? This is so great. So, last but not least, he is a co-founder of several influential HR events, such as Walsh College Annual Human Resources Summit, which is it's a great big thing, right? And HR Analytics Day. All right. So Dr. Meadows is also the president, you guys, of the State of Michigan chapter of the National Association of African American and Human Resources. I love that. Love that. Dr. Meadows, lastly, is a TEDx Detroit talk titled "There's a Lot More Going On Than You Realize." And that reflects his deep insights into the complexities of human resources altogether. He is a prolific writer on LinkedIn, so get in touch with him, and an author of a business leadership fable titled "Take the Lull by the Horns." I'm sorry, it might be the bull. But by the horns. Closing the leadership gap. All right. So please join me. Yes, finally. To welcome Dr. Lee E. Meadows, an amazing leader. And I've actually heard the people call him the godfather of human resources. So yes, let's get him in. Let's get him in. Let's go. Let's go. Told y'all, champions adjust. So let me see here. Here he is. Accepted, Mr. Meadows. Dr. Meadows. Are you there? Are you there? Give him a minute here. Let's see. Are you there?
Yeah, we just need to get my microphone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes, everyone.
what
Meadows.
what an introduction. What an introduction. I'm humbled and embarrassed at the same time.
Hey, you are.
But
You are.
it is such a delight to be here with you. It really is. And again, champions adjust. Thank you all for hanging in there. The technology deficiency was on my part, not on the part of the host, because I'm old school. I still have to press buttons and be talked through stuff. And she was patient enough to do that. And so I'm gonna stay with Jenée as long as she needs me to do this, because she hung in there to get me here.
Thank you. I am just so grateful that you're here. Oh my goodness. So I've already told like your almost whole life story.
There's no more to tell other than I'm native born in Detroit. So that's the only thing left out.
Okay. Well, I guess we can get started then. Although, I mean, do you want to go ahead and just give the people like how they can maybe get in touch with you? Obviously, they know your name, but
I have a LinkedIn page, and that's the best way to reach me. I'm at the point now where I don't carry business cards and I don't have a website. I'm just kind of out here doing my thing to the best of my ability. And I find the best way for me to keep in touch is to have a LinkedIn page. And so that's where most of my contacts, that's where a lot of my stuff happens.
all right. Yes. Oh, and the name on LinkedIn page is
it's LinkedIn at Lee Meadows.
all right, at Lee Meadows. There you go, people.
We go.
All right.
Go.
Get started.
Jenée, let's rock this thing.
All right. So to guide our discussion today, here are some giftful questions that I'm eager to explore with our esteemed guest, Dr. Lee E. Meadows. All right. So let's see here. Gift number one. Can you share your journey and how faith has influenced your commitment to DEI in your business or career?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm born, Baptist, from Detroit. Faith has always been an essential part of who I am. It's guided me in ways that, upon reflection, I wasn't even aware of until I was actually kind of doing this. My commitment to DEI is rooted in essentially social justice. I'm a child of the social justice, social protest period, in which the whole notion of, civil rights, equal rights, human rights, that's all part of my mantra. That's how I grew up. That's how I came into adulthood. And so that's always centered in my core values. And those kinds of movements, those kinds of actions are grounded in a faith, because it's a belief that you are doing the right thing, and and then when doing the right thing in terms of the advancement of people, there's a certain faith you have to put into that, because it's too easy to believe that you're not meant to be, or you can be told that you're less than, or any number of things like that. And faith is one of those core values that allows you to move through that tornado with confidence, with ease, knowing that it's going to be a struggle, but at the far end of that is the goal of, the rights of human beings, basic humanity, spiritual uplifting. All that is anchored in that, and that's what's driven me over the years.
Wow.
So it has evolved in a number of different ways, from being someone who's was active in civil rights, to someone who became more active in social rights, the recognition of human beings as individuals and as groups, and then the whole notion of working inside of organizations to help prevent them from paralyzing the potential of people who, by constitutional right, if you will, by constitutional right, have every reason to be there just as much as anyone else. And so that's been a lot of that path that's driven me toward DEI, which for me is the next phase in the process.
Yeah.
Because now it's the recognition that, with each movement, Jenée, the context changes. And DEI is now one that is anchored in this new context that we're operating under, which is that the workforce is more diverse, society is much more diverse, it's very much more global, and that whatever mantras drove the previous decade or the previous century aren't going to be relevant in terms of what's going on now. So that's kind of my present in terms of how I got to this particular point.
That is wonderful and so important, right?
Absolutely.
So I know with DEI around, unfortunately, like I said in the beginning, yeah, I wasn't there for me. Unfortunately, I just kind of had to make my own way and just stay true to who I was. And that got me through for the most part.
Yes.
Even God. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's during those moments when you feel most alone, in your individual pursuit of perfection, or pursuit of individualism, or just pursuit of your own personhood. Oftentimes that's not connected to anything that's human, anchored in humanity. It's got to come from a deeper source, because in those moments when you have nothing else to cling to, you always have your faith to both strengthen you and guide you and move you forward. So I hear what you're saying. You've had those moments,
yes,
but your faith got you through
That's
it.
Right.
Absolutely.
Every time. And I tell people, look, and if you don't have any faith, borrow some of mine, because I have a lot of it.
Well, yeah, it's interesting that that we're having this kind of conversation, because one of the things that I try to get folks to understand about DEI, and that is a lot of it is rooted in, well, if we look at how things have evolved over time, things fall into what I refer to as the reliance principles. And there's three basic reliance principles that are there, but they don't quite get you where you want to go. All right. One of the reliance principles is the reliance on human nature, and that is the belief that man is either good or bad, and when given a choice between one or the other, that man would tend to opt for good. And maybe that's true more often than not, but that's just not enough to get you there. The other reliance principle that people talk about is, well, why make so much noise? Just wait for the natural social evolution of something to occur. Just be quiet. Your turn will come. Your time will come. Your moment will come, but it needs to evolve over time. And there's some relative truth to that. But who's the group or individuals who are told to wait? And you know, and you know what, waiting is an inaction that never gets you anywhere.
Yeah.
The other principle is what's known as reciprocated kindness. Well, maybe if I be kind to someone, that they in turn will reciprocate that kindness, and that will get us there. And while all those principles are kind of rooted in human behavior and core values, they don't quite get you there. There has to be some actions that are rooted in the core belief that you are just as much entitled to your own individual freedoms, your own individual expressions as anyone else, and that there's really no one qualified to prevent that. Although oftentimes, you know, as you've encountered, as others encountered, um, those things tend to happen. So, you know, so it's like after that, what do you do to move things forward?
Stand up for yourself and keep the
Yeah,
faith.
yeah.
That's
Stand up.
what I did.
Yeah,
And stay
pick
who
you up,
you
and it
are.
moves you forward. And it moves you forward. Absolutely.
Yep. Stay true to who you are. That
Mm-hmm.
hey, that's what I had to do, and I'm so glad that I did it. You know,
And we're
or
glad you did too.
that level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we know. We're glad you did too.
Yes. Wonderful. Okay, so gift number 2.
Okay.
What are some practical ways that entrepreneurs can incorporate DEI principles into like their business journeys? I call it a journey,
Yeah, it
you
is.
know, from the start. What are some ways they
Well,
can?
you know what? I one if any entrepreneur is really serious about DEI and incorporating it what they want to do, I think it has to begin with their own internal self-reflection.
Mm.
What is it that you fundamentally believe about people? And I mean, and you really need to think that through. You need to write it out. You need to look at the words that are in front of you. Because if you really, really believe in the essence and goodness of people and their ability to use their potential for going forward, then from there, it's just a question of modeling the behavior for individuals who are going to be part of the organization. You make that part of their orientation. And part of it is, listen, this is the kind of organization we are. This is what I believe. And there's no wavering in that belief in terms of how we treat people. If that's not something that you can do, then you need to seek employment elsewhere. It doesn't make you a bad person.
Right.
It just means that your values aren't aligned with the ones that I'm using to both shape and build this organization. Because all entrepreneurs are really about trying to build the organization that they start.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to do it with good people, right? You don't want people masking their agenda in order to become part of what's going on in your organization, only to usurp or misalign what you're trying to accomplish. I think if you have to be right clear about that right from the beginning as part of the orientation, and then set the expectations for that so that they know going forward, wherever you find your talent, if that talent comes, walking upright, if that talent is in a wheelchair, if that talent is blind one eye, if that talent shares a different religion, is a different color, that doesn't matter as in terms of growing your organization. The only thing that matters is that person's ability to deliver and help that organization grow. And so you start with that kind of core fundamental belief. Then from there, there's always policies and procedures you can put in place. But I believe everything starts from day one. If people know from day one, this is the expectation for who we are and how we treat people, you are either on board with it, or if not, please find employment God bless you, right?
Yes.
And find employment with another place. But in this place, this is how we are. And I think it starts with something just that fundamental.
That is, and you would think to say it's so simple,
Yes,
but
it is.
it's a common thing, but common
Gets
so common, right?
people make it more complicated. It's a very simple premise. You and I can sit at a local coffee shop and have conversations about this, night and day until, and we can even disagree. The real issue is when we're back in that workplace and we have to get things done with one another. You being an African American female should have nothing to do with my interaction with you as an African American male. If you aren't getting it done, if that's the talent that's needed to get it done, then that's where we go.
Yeah.
And while I don't think that's that complicated, the reason why DEI exists is that because people have made it complicated.
Yeah.
They've made it complicated through structures. They made it complicated through cultures. They made it complicated because of legacy. They made it complicated because of their own fears and insecurities about what they think somebody's going to get, as opposed to what they bring to the table.
Yeah.
And so when you're in a situation to suppress, the talents and skills of an individual because you have a certain level or power or position in an organization, then it's those fears that's driving that. Right? But those fears, what they tend to do is to take the talented folks who bring something to the organization and have them look elsewhere. So for any entrepreneurs to say, set the tone that you think is important for getting it done and hold people accountable to that. And if they don't like that particular premise, again, God bless you. I wish you success in another organization, but that's not how we're going to do work here.
That part. Yes. So
Right?
good. Thank you for that insight.
This is
So
this is this is 125,000 years of learning.
yes. There you go. All right. So we have 3 more to go. So
Yeah,
gift number 3,
I'm here.
how do you address challenges or resistance when implementing DEI initiatives in the business environment?
Everything starts with a conversation, Jenée. Everything has to start with a conversation.
Communication.
There people say resistance is natural. I don't know how true that is. I do know that it happens all the time when you're trying to implement something new or something that's seen as taking away from something you already have. DEI is never intended to do that, no matter how it gets portrayed out in the rest of the world. So I think everything starts with a conversation. And I want to know, before something like that gets started, what are your thoughts about the fact that the workforce is becoming much more diverse? What are your thoughts about the fact that the workforce has become much more global? What are your thoughts about the fact that that technology is allowing for changes in ways that free up people to not be in an office engaging, or connect them to the globe in ways that you couldn't imagine? What are your assumptions about individuals by way of race or gender or religion in terms of what you think they bring to the organization versus your fear for having them there? Everything has got to start with the conversation, because if not, individuals are allowed to operate on their assumptions. And when folks are operating on their assumptions in an organization, they find ways to undermine the good intent that the organization might be going after. So I have learned that whenever I'm helping an organization implement any kind of DEI structure, I always start right from the beginning and say, well, let's figure out what questions we want to ask folks. Right? We want to be able to know what they're thinking, because that's going to give some insight as to what's going to be their level of resistance. And if it's a fear, we need to talk about that. If it's a loss of something, we need to talk about that. It has to be positioned so that people understand there's a major gain that comes from this, the unique perspectives that people bring into the workforce. Do you know that 85% of innovation can be attributed to um, um, diverse teams? That oftentimes some of the best innovation that comes out is because the team was diverse enough to take into account a number of different perspectives. I'm a Southeast, I'm a North End urban born African American from Detroit who has worked on a team with an individual who's from the upper part of Michigan, where there's absolutely no interaction with anybody of my color. When he and I were on the same team, it was interesting how his unique perspective on something and my unique perspective on something, they didn't clash. What we spent time was looking at how they connect. And from that particular connection, some great ideas started to come forward. It's the thing that tends to hold organizations back is the belief that everybody of a particular or specific affinity on the same team can
Mm.
come up with innovative ideas. And that's just not possible. That's
Oh,
just not possible. So
right.
in a global environment where you're trying to be competitive, why would you limit that? Now, having said all that, you still have to go back and start asking questions.
Yeah.
I want people to talk to me and tell me what it is they think is true about African American men, what it is that you think is true about about individuals who in the wheelchair. What do you think is true? Because what you think is true is what you're assuming.
Mm.
Right? The truth is something altogether different. And
That,
as we're talking about faith, there's a level of faith that you to have those conversations, because sometimes you're going to hear some stuff that you just didn't think was not even, not only that they were just thinking it,
mhm.
but that they would even take the time to articulate it. And there's a certain faith that guides that process of saying, well, this, I got to get through this, because if this is going to be a critical part of what this organization wants, man, we got to work our way through that rage, through that tornado, through those fears, those concerns, and get folks anchored in the fact that what we're trying to do, what's going on here is something good for the organization.
Yeah. Yes, that is so key, so key. And we talked about that diversity piece and just coming together. I love that, because what people don't know about me, well, some people don't know that don't know me, and I don't think you
Right.
know, is I'm not even from Michigan. Like, I was born in Utah,
Look
raised overseas in England. Like,
at
you know what
that. What a unique perspective you bring.
Yeah, I like that about myself.
Well, you should. You should. It's like when you're looking at something now, it's like you've got that broader perspective that it's not rooted in like inner city Detroit or Chicago South Side. Utah and then
Yep.
overseas. How
And
does that happen to someone?
yeah. Oh, and I'm a PK kid because my dad's a preacher
See,
and he's in South Carolina. So I'm just well
you are,
rounded. Thank God.
yeah, and your unique perspective is helpful to an organization if they're wise enough to recognize how that talent is helpful.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank
Mhm.
you for that.
Well, my job is also trying to bring wisdom and all that stuff that gets in the way of trying to make DEI happen.
Mm.
And trying to deal with all the false narratives that have been thrown out there over the last 2 or 3 years, where folks are crafting messages in different parts of the country, and crafting those messages in such a way that they're using to dismantle DEI efforts at
Mm.
a point in time when they were just starting to experience some kind of breakthrough,
Wow.
right? And they disguise it by saying, well, we're doing that because it's a form of discrimination. No, it isn't. That was never its intent.
Mm.
What it is a form of recruitment. What it is it's a strategy to get at the broader array of talent that has heretofore been relatively excluded from those opportunities now. When
Yeah.
the context is, if you engage in exclusive measures that don't allow for a diversity of talent to come into your organization, you
Mm.
are not going to be able to you're not going to be globally competitive. It
That's
just,
so true.
it's not going
That's
to happen. It just,
so true.
just
Very.
so.
Thank you for
Right.
that. I appreciate that.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
so, well, just know that, look, now you know a person, what you didn't know about me. So I'm here to help too. So we got to connect even further.
Well, we're good. We got it. We got
Yeah.
it.
All right. So gift number 4. Can you provide an example of a time when your faith guided you to making a decision related to DEI in your organization?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, boy. I'm trying to figure out which one do I settle on, because there've been a number along the way.
I'm sure.
Um, so I'll keep it recent.
Okay.
Um, I was doing some work with a particular hospital
Mm.
um about a year and a half ago, in which one of them, in which they were experiencing a number of issues that were clearly race and gender based. Individuals in traditional roles of leadership in the organization, occupying these roles for a long time, had their way of doing things, and for the benefit of that, I would say unconscious. No, I can't give them that much credit. Conscious, they were conscious in their intent to minimize the advancement opportunities of people of color, of women, anybody who was a little bit different and didn't line up with what they thought was how a person is supposed to be. When I got called into that and conducted my interviews and did my assessment, listened to a lot of the banter that went back and forth and all that. I always tell my client, well, once I've kind of gotten all that, I'm going to put together a report and submit it and provide it to you. And I got to tell you, when I was putting together this report, I just really got down because part of me was saying, there's just no way that this group is going to accept the recommendations that are needed to get them past all of these big institutional barriers and preservation of the norm in order to get this particular breakthrough. And part of me was just wanted to go, you know what, I'll submit the report, send an invoice and say, look, I don't think I'm the person who can do this for you because this is just going to be too tough. And then, like anything, you go to sleep on it, and all of a sudden, certain things just start to swim around in your head because I couldn't sleep, and I just kept hearing, you keep hearing things, going over things, and all of a sudden, the realization kind of hit me that next morning. Oh, I think I know how to get through this now. And so I went in with a renewed sense of purpose. Once I kind of got that in and actually found them willing to go that extra mile to make this happen, when I reflected back on it, I went, huh, oh, you did it again, Faith. Just, I'm driving in my Ford Escape going home, and I stopped and kind of stuck my head out the window and looked up and went, oh, okay, I got you.
That is great.
And so it turned out to be a very good project, but the feelings going forward were one of, I don't know, I don't think this is going to happen, but there was enough there to suggest that, you were picked to do this for this reason. Get up and go get it done.
Yes, and that you did.
Okay.
Look,
you got my back, don't you?
It's one of those, you can lead them to the water, but you can't make them drink it. So you did that. That was obedient.
It was done, and I'm humble enough to know it wasn't just all me. That there was a push that I needed, and the continued recognition that there is a hand guiding what you do when you know you're doing the right thing.
Yes. Love that. Thank you for that. All right. Okay, last but not least, gift number 5.
All right, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
All right. So, what advice or steps would you give to another faith-driven leader who wants to champion DEI, such as like when they're going to give a training to like corporate clients, but they're unsure where to begin?
Well, you begin with your own sense of faith. You start with the realization that I know what I'm doing is good. I know what I'm doing is right. I know what I'm doing is needed. It's necessary. It's a way of pushing people past their own fears and biases. And so, if that means drinking from the well of faith before taking that steps, go ahead and do that. Because once you've got your kind of principles in place, recognize that what you're trying to do is you're trying to make people better at what they do by getting them past the things that keep them from being better. And DEI training, like a lot of training pieces, are designed to give you knowledge and skills in a particular area to make you better. All right, not to hold you back, but to make you better. Everything about diversity, equity, and inclusion, whether it's coming from an individual or a consulting firm or a strategy firm or the organization itself, it has to be grounded in the fundamental faith that what you're doing, you're trying to make people better by helping them get past the things that prevent them from being better. And it's
Wow.
a strategy, a set of skills, a tool for making that happen. And you have to believe that in your heart of hearts, even when you're encountering resistance, because resistance is just people's fears getting in the way of their reasoning. You can get past that. All right. Sometimes some is easier than others are hard. But it's like anything. Your dad's a pastor because he had a calling, right? And a calling means that you don't have the choice to say no, like you do with an invitation.
Even when he tried. No.
You get an invitation, you go, well, okay, maybe I'll think about it or something, or it's nice and humble. But you get a calling. It's like you don't have a choice. You got to go. And I believe that a number of the folks who come into DEI do so because it's a calling.
Yeah.
They recognize through their experiences, through their individual experiences, and they're being integrated within experiences, that there is a message that needs to be conveyed, and that message has to get out there. So you're always doing the right thing. All right, so you blow up a landmine or two along the way. Doesn't stop it from being right. It just means that you keep the strategy focused, keep it going forward, and you will. And getting DEI in place in many ways is the same experience that teachers have. You teach in the moment because you know it makes a difference later on. DEI makes a difference later on, and so you have to kind of go with that.
Yeah. So good. So good. Thank you for that. Appreciate that also.
Right. Well, I want folks to know. I enjoy this work. I enjoy it. It's been a good calling for me. It's one of several things that I enjoy doing. When I look at a lot of the negative stuff that people are saying about it, DEI is not responsible for the ship that ran into the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore. The ship just ran out of power, but someone decided that a false narrative to put out there was that's the result of DEI. Boeing had a door fly off a plane, and before the plane landed, somebody put out a narrative that it was because of DEI, and it wasn't because of DEI. Somebody forgot to put a bolt on
Right.
it. A train crashes in Ohio, and it's unfortunate. There's a big major chemical spill, big major accident. Someone said that's because of DEI, and it wasn't because of DEI. It was a mechanical failure, but the narrative got out there. And it's like every time something like this happens, someone decides to put out a false narrative that it's DEI's fault. When the real investigators go into it and they narrow down what it was, and it's typically something mechanical.
Right.
It's got nothing to do with a policy in place. But there are so many folks who are willing to listen to that unreasonable account of how something happened, embrace that as the norm, as the narrative, and then use that as a barrier for preventing other things like for DEI to do. Whereas any reasonable person, anybody with a general reasoning capacity could hear that and go, so let me make sure I understand something. That boat ran out of power at a particular time and hit the bridge, and you're saying it was a DEI policy that did that. Now, how much sense did that make? How much sense did that make? Especially when the people who ran the ship said, we ran out of power. The power went off. That's
Yeah.
all it was. Right? The power went off. That's all it was. All right. Tragic in a lot of ways, but not the fault of DEI.
Yes. Amen to
Amen.
that.
All right. All
Thank
right. So part of your mission and anyone who's involved in this is to constantly confront the false narratives, because
Yeah.
they will continue. There's a group of folks out there who just will continue to put them out there because they think that's one way of scaring folks into, well, they took something like this and they politicized it. It was never political, but now it's become politicized and an excuse to not do something in lieu of, people acting on those particular fears. So I confront that all the time. Every time I hear about that and someone jumps out there with a narrative, um, I also conduct my own investigation, listen to what the other folks are saying, and say, no, that had nothing to do with it. It was, you know, the ship ran out of power at that moment and hit the bridge. Nothing other than that.
That just like gives them a reason to have, to just sweep things under the rug, or just an excuse.
Well, it's like, we don't like it anyway, so here's the justification to not do it.
Exactly.
Right.
That.
So because if you do it, bridges fall down. If you do it, planes fall out the sky. If you do it, banks go up under. If you do all that, relationships start to break up, and and swamp things start to show up. It's like, my God, come on, give that a rest.
That's people kind of like when COVID happened, and they're like, everything, blame COVID for everything. Why? It was COVID. Oh, well, my car crashed. It was COVID. So similar, right?
Reel it back in, gang. Come back to your reasoning capacity and use that to guide going forward. Society is changing, and there's not a whole lot that folks can do about that. You represent a generation of folks who are coming through with a completely different set of ways of thinking about things, and not so inclined to just accept this is the norm for how we treat people. Well, maybe that is for you, but I won't be treated that way.
That's right.
Right? And when enough folks start saying that, I won't be treated that way, then the narrative starts to change.
That's right. You gotta stand up for yourself.
You keep plugging. You just keep on plugging.
Much. I appreciate you, Dr. Lee Meadows. I am so grateful to have you on my podcast. I know we had it in the beginning, but again, champions adjust. So
we make it happen. Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Make this happen. So I just wanted to ask, is there anything else that you would like to share as my guest here on my show today? Again, I am so grateful for you, all your wisdom, knowledge, and your amazing background of just skill set. Amazing. We're going to definitely be keeping in touch even more.
Well, if you want me back, and I'll come back because I owe you.
You don't owe me.
I'll come. If you want back, I'll be back. But no.
So here's other stuff already. I'm looking at curriculums for my speaking stuff. We gonna talk.
We gonna talk.
Oh yeah.
See, what you're doing is a good thing. All right, it's a good thing. It's the idea of championing something that no one can stop you from doing. You have a voice. It's a voice that's grounded in experience, and it's a voice and it's a passion governed by faith. And people need to hear that. They need to hear from the likes of you and others who are out here clarifying issues that folks just wish to embrace and not challenge. And you're challenging the norm, you're challenging the status quo, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
For me, it's that's always my message going forward. Whether I'm doing speaking engagements, whether I'm doing leadership training, it doesn't matter. My goal is I'm out there to help people become better at what they do, so that what they do is better for others. So, hit me on LinkedIn if I can be of any help to you in any way, shape, or form. Please contact me, because this passion will follow me, beyond Earth.
Amazing. Thank you again. I appreciate you. Thank you so very much for being on my podcast today.
It is my pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, so you can stay on, or I'm going to just keep going. Either way. Or
you keep going. It's your platform. You take it over. Okay. Nice talking with you, Jenée.
Thank you so much. Have a blessed day on purpose, Doctor.
All
Meadows.
right. Take care now.
All right,
Bye.
bye-bye. I think you got to drop off, maybe.
I'm going to do
Okay.
that. All right. Here we go.
All right. So I'm going to continue on. Let's remember to actually follow and put into action Dr. Meadows and his wise suggestions. But also, here are some of my own giftful and actionable steps for implementing DEI in your business, because implementing DEI in your business or just along your journey, it simply, goes a long ways, and it will be very helpful. Okay. So it'll help you with that commitment and that ongoing effort. So I don't know if we're turning here. It looks a little weird, you guys. Hold on a minute. I don't know. It's doing something, but either way, he was on, y'all. Yes. Thank you, Jesus. All right. So it'll help you with the ongoing effort, like I was saying, and your willingness to lead by example. All right. So just a few quick gifts of my own here. Starting with gift number one, start with leadership. Ensure your leadership team reflects the diversity you aim to achieve within your own business and or organization. And diverse leadership sets the tone for the entire company. All right. So, gift number two, create inclusive policies. Develop policies that, they promote equity and inclusion, such as just unbiased recruitment practices. That's a start right there. All right. Equitable pay, and that's for yourself as well, by the way, and opportunities for professional development. All right. Gift number three, continuous education. Invest in regular DEI training, those sessions for all employees and yourself. That's important, right? And while investing in those things, just make sure that you just keep an open mind and perspective to just the DEI altogether. It's very, very helpful for yourself, for your journey as an entrepreneur, business, or in the workplace. All right. Uh, Gift number three, invest in regular DEI training. I think I might have said that. Um, Education fosters awareness. Know that. And a great broad understanding, right? So it's very crucial for cultivating an inclusive culture, and it makes a great environment. I talked about how I was in that toxic environment in the beginning of the podcast and things like that. So that continuous education, that helps with that as well. And then last but not least, gift number five, and that is, which is a really big one here, open dialogue. All right. So simply encourage open and honest conversations with DEI. All right. Create platforms where your employees as well as yourself feel safe to share all experiences and suggestions that they might want to bring to the table, right? No one's perfect, so everybody can have different, ideas and things like that. So it's okay to receive them. So I just want to leave you with some uplifting and a challenge. So remember, the path to an inclusive and equitable business or journey is not easy, but it simply and immensely is very rewarding to do this. All right. So use faith as your anchor, as we talked about today. And when you're faced with just that resistance, remember why you started. All right. Also, visualize the actual change that you actually want to see, and just let that vision guide you. All right? Just let it go. Let it guide you. All right? Lastly, the main challenge. This week, I challenge you to take one concrete step towards improving DEI. All right? In your business, in your workplace, on your journey, as I call it. Instead of a story, by the way, you guys, I call it my journey. All right? So whether it's starting a conversation, implementing a new policy, or attending a DEI workshop, there's a start. That would be a good idea, right? So just take the step. That's the whole idea. Take a step. All right. Share your progress with me by hashtagging DEI on my page, and we can discuss it, of course. And let's just inspire each other to keep pushing forward. You know, I always like to say that. Again, you're not alone. I got you. We can do this together. All right. So, as always, thank you so very much. Thank you for coming back onto the podcast. I know I had some technical difficulties getting Dr. Meadows on here, but again, Champions Adjust, that's me. And we did that. All right. So, I appreciate you coming back on. As always, thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Faith Forward Fearlessly podcast with me, Jenée Hudson, the Uplifter. Don't forget to follow for ongoing inspiring content from me. And remember that you are not alone in this journey, as I always like to say, all right? Together, anchored by faith, we can create businesses and journeys that are not only successful, but also inclusive and equitable, all right? Until next time, have a blessed day and a prosperous year on purpose. Bye.